Holly Dunn was still alive when the man who had beaten her walked away from the railroad tracks. She could feel blood on her face and dirt under her hands, but she did not move right away. The night around her was quiet again, the way it had been before everything changed. Beside her, Christopher Maier was not answering. She was 20 years old, a junior at the University of Kentucky, and she knew that if she stayed where she was, the man might come back, or she might bleed out before anyone ever found them. The night had started like an ordinary college night in Lexington, Kentucky. It was late August 1997, the beginning of a new school year, and Holly had been spending time with Chris Maier, a 21-year-old University of Kentucky student she had recently begun dating. They had gone to a party, then left together and walked toward a quiet area near railroad tracks not far from campus. There was nothing about that walk that should have marked it as dangerous. The tracks ran through a familiar part of town. Students used shortcuts. Couples looked for privacy. Trains came and went, and the sound of them was part of the city's background. Holly and Chris sat near the tracks, talking and drinking beer, away from the noise of the party. They were young, relaxed, and close enough to homes that danger did not feel realistic. Then a man appeared near them. He seemed to come out of the darkness around the tracks. Holly later remembered that he asked whether they had money. His voice had an accent, and at first the request did not feel like the beginning of a killing. It sounded like a robbery. It sounded like a frightening moment that might end if they gave him what he wanted. The stranger was Ángel Maturino Reséndiz, though Holly and Chris did not know his name. He was a drifter who moved by rail and used aliases. He had crossed borders and traveled through railroad corridors for years. He would later become known as the Railroad Killer. At the tracks, he took control quickly. Chris was forced down. Holly saw the situation shift from robbery to something worse as the man restrained them. He used Holly's own belt to bind her hands behind her back and tied her legs so she could not run. Chris was also restrained. For a short time, Reséndiz moved away from them. Holly used the seconds he was gone to fight against the belt around her wrists. She managed to free her hands, but her legs were still tied, and Chris was still helpless beside her. Chris tried to keep calm and told her it was going to be okay. When Reséndiz came back, he was carrying a heavy rock. Holly saw him bring it toward Chris. There was no warning that could change what happened next. Reséndiz dropped the rock onto Chris's head. Chris's body went still beside her. Holly was tied, trapped, and forced to understand that the man had not come only to rob them. Then he turned on her. Holly fought because there was nothing else left. She kicked, screamed, punched, and bit at him, trying to make enough noise or cause enough pain to break his control. He stabbed her in the neck with a sharp tool described in accounts as an ice pick and threatened her life. After that, Holly understood that fighting in the same way might make him kill her immediately. She shifted from panic to survival. She watched him. She studied him. She tried to hold on to details that might matter if she lived. Reséndiz sexually assaulted her and beat her severely. He struck her face and head with a board, leaving injuries so serious that she would later need her jaw wired shut. Her eye socket was broken. Her face was cut and swollen. She lost a dangerous amount of blood. At some point, he believed he had killed her. He left her near the tracks with Chris, both of them hidden in the dark. But Holly was not dead. She had made herself remember his face, his voice, his scars, and his tattoos. During the attack, she had also dug her fingernails into the ground, thinking that if he moved her body, there might still be a trace showing where she had been. She was planning for evidence while she was still fighting to stay alive. After Reséndiz left, Holly forced herself to move. She was weak, badly injured, and disoriented. She did not know whether the attacker was still close. She did not know how long she had before her body gave out, but she got up and made her way toward help. She reached a nearby house. The people inside saw a young woman so badly hurt that the scene hardly made sense at first. She was bleeding, swollen, and barely able to speak clearly. Help was called. Police and emergency medical workers came. Holly was taken to the hospital where doctors treated injuries that could have killed her before morning. Chris Maier did not survive. Holly was in the hospital while his family and friends were left to absorb the fact that a night near campus had ended in murder. She could not attend his funeral because she was still recovering from the attack. From the beginning, Holly tried to help investigators. She gave them the description she had forced herself to remember. The attacker had an accent. He had distinctive marks. He had come from the railroad tracks and disappeared back into the same kind of world. Investigators collected evidence from the scene. But in 1997, the case did not have the kind of instant DNA network people later came to expect. The man had no name in the file yet. He was gone. Holly went home carrying injuries that healed at different speeds. The cuts and fractures could be treated. Her jaw could be wired. Bruises could fade. But ordinary sounds and sights became threats. Railroad tracks could bring the terror back. The sound of trains could push her body into panic before her mind could stop it. She had survived the attack, but survival did not mean the night had ended for her. For almost 2 years, Reséndiz kept moving. He traveled by trains and left fear across several states. In December 1998, Dr. Claudia Benton was murdered in her home near Houston, Texas. The brutality of that crime and the location near railroad tracks helped investigators connect patterns. Fingerprints and evidence began to point toward a man known by the alias Rafael Reséndiz Ramirez. The case expanded beyond Kentucky, and the FBI placed him on its 10 most wanted fugitives list in 1999. Holly's memory mattered. The details she had held onto in the dark helped connect her attack to the man authorities were now hunting. In July 1999, Reséndiz surrendered to Texas Ranger Drew Carter at the bridge between El Paso and Ciudad Juarez after negotiations involving his sister. He was taken into custody, and the man Holly had fought to remember finally had a face the public could see. The legal case centered first on the murder of Dr. Claudia Benton in Texas. Reséndiz was convicted of capital murder and sentenced to death. Holly later testified during the penalty phase of his trial. She had to face the man who had killed Chris and left her for dead. She carried the memory of the tracks into a courtroom and spoke as the only known survivor of his attacks. Reséndiz was executed in Texas in 2006. His death did not undo what he had done. It did not give Chris Maier back to his family. It did not remove the scars, the fear, or the years Holly spent rebuilding a life after violence. But it ended the manhunt and confirmed what Holly had known since the night she crawled away from the tracks. She had survived a killer who expected her to be silent forever. In the years after the attack, Holly Dunn turned her survival into advocacy. She spoke publicly, wrote about what happened, and worked to support victims of violent crime. She helped establish Holly's House in Indiana, an advocacy center for victims of domestic and sexual violence and child abuse. The attack near the railroad tracks began with 2 college students walking away from a party. It ended with Chris Maier murdered, Holly Dunn nearly killed, and a serial killer still moving through the country. Holly lived because she noticed, remembered, fought, crawled, and found help when her body was close to giving up. She became the witness Reséndiz did not expect to leave behind. He left her in the dirt beside the tracks, believing the night had erased her. Instead, she survived and helped make sure the world knew what he had done. Thank you for listening to Horrifying Survival Stories. Subscribe for more stories of those who faced the impossible and lived.